What's up, everybody? It's your boy K Love, back again with another episode, the second episode of the 410 Pod. I hope everybody's having a great day, man. It's Friday, you know what I mean? It's the end of the week, going into the weekend. I hope everybody had a great week, ready for some good football tonight. Some good college football tonight. We got Boise State, UNLV. We got Tulane and Army. Got two good games tonight. And then tomorrow, loaded slate. Loaded slate. Right? Nothing new in life. I know we're about to start cracking down more on some recruiting. As I told you guys in the last episode, I'm a college football coach, so it's about to be heavy recruiting season over here with me and my guys. But yeah, nonetheless, let's hop right into this, man. Last night, the Packers versus Lions. That was a great game. Great ending. Dan Campbell, he's a psycho. He's a psycho, man. I don't know what else to say about it. He trusts his team. That 4th and inches call at the end of the game, he could have just kicked the field goal, but he decided to go for it. Shout out to him. But listen, the Lions have won 11 straight with a win in last night's game versus the Green Bay Packers. And with the win in last night's game, they've clinched a spot in the playoffs, sitting with a 79% chance to win the NFC, earning the first place spot in the NFC, per ESPN's analytics. Last night's game was electric on both sides. I think Green Bay's problem, is that they started off really slow again. I think, going back to the game in early November when they played the Lions in Green Bay, I know it was a nasty game, it was a rainy game, but if I'm not mistaken, they didn't score until the third or fourth quarter, like a touchdown. They didn't score a touchdown until the third or fourth quarter. And, when you're going against teams like that, of that nature, the Lions were then on a hot streak, right? I think they had already won 7 games up in a row up to that point. You can't go in there making mistakes, coming in slow, the run game not, producing enough value. It's not super efficient. Yes, the run game last night was great. Josh Jacobs had 3 touchdowns. But, I'm going back to that first game, that first matchup they had early in November. The run game was slow early on. The pass game was slow early on. Yes, it was a rainy game, but this is the NFL. You got to get something going early, and especially against a team with 1 loss, and against a team of that nature with all that talent and the coaching. The team that's willing to take risk. You can't be playing to not lose. You got to play to win. And I feel like Green Bay did make an improvement last night on that, in that area. They weren't playing to lose last night. They were actually playing to win. But nonetheless, the better team won, in my opinion. Green Bay is a hell of a team. Lots of talent on that team. But they're just super young right now, and that's not an excuse, for them. It's just the truth and the reality. They made a lot of young mistakes last night, had a lot of young penalties last night, Jordan Love missed some throws early on. And that's going to happen in his young career. This is his, second year starting. That's going to happen in his young career. And then he also had flashes last night, He had that one play late in the game where he had a free blitzer coming right at him, and then he avoided him and still stepped up in the pocket, dumped it off to the tight end, running a shallow cross or a deep cross or across the field for the first down on 3rd down, right? That's a pro play, right? Let's read off his stats here. Jordan Love last night, 12 for 20, 206 through the air and a touchdown, no picks. That's a solid stat line. Right, I'm still used to him throwing the ball a little bit more. But they found a little bit more success in the run game last night. Yes, although Josh Jacobs, the numbers look weird. He had 18 carries for 66, but he also had 3 touchdowns. He was scoring all of their points last night. And Christian Watson also had a solid night. 4 catches for 114. They were missing Romeo Doubs again. Yeah, they were missing a guy, but Detroit was also missing guys. Not an excuse. They had a great game, but they just came up short, Now, if we take a look at the other side, the Detroit side, Jared Goff, MVP candidate right now. He threw 32 of 41. That's a lot of times throwing the ball, but he's used to that. He's a gunslinger. 32 of 41, 283, 3 touchdowns, and a almost costly pick there in the middle of the game. It takes a few plays to change the trajectory of a game for a team. Gibbs and Montgomery combined for a total of 94 yards and a touchdown by David Montgomery. Jamo had 5 catches for 80. Tim Patrick had 6 catches for 43 yards and 2 touchdowns. I want to stop right there. Tim Patrick, congratulations, my man. You have reinserted yourself into the league. Your production over the last few weeks has been very noticeable. A lot of people won't talk about you because, you're not your name isn't amongst the premier guys. The Justin Jeffersons, Tyreek Hills, et cetera, et cetera. But your production is up there. You are putting up numbers right now. Solid wide receiver 3 numbers. Low tier wide receiver 2, high tier wide receiver 3 numbers. Right. Congratulations to you on your your production lately. Jahmyr Gibbs, this was pretty good. 6 catches for 30 yards and a touchdown. Mon-Ra had not an off night, but I expected a lot more from Mon-Ra last night with Jair being out and Corey Ballantyne. They had two productive DBs out on Green Bay's side, and I expected Mon-Ra to put up Jamo type numbers, the 5 for 80, not 5 for 43, but still, nonetheless, solid night. And he had a nice little end around carry there in the game, little trick play. Sam Laporta, 5 catches for 54 yards. Sam Laporta has impressed me all season long. He's a top tight end, very top tier tight end. I wish nothing but the best for him. But some of the reasons, let's get back to, some of the reasons the Packers lost. Like I said, they had the slow start in the first half, right? First 3 drives, punt, fumble. That is not how you want to start a game, right? And as a fan, that is not how you want to see your favorite team starting the game. You have to start fast, especially in the NFL, right? Doesn't matter what level of football that you're playing on. You have to start fast. You have to. And 2 punts and the fumble, it's not starting fast. A lot of drop passes last night. Lots of drop passes last night. The lack of receiving production, right? I mentioned earlier that they didn't have Romeo Doubs. That's fine. Yes, Christian Watson did have 4 catches for 114, but also he dropped a pass that could have been a touchdown. There's things like that. Those 4 to 5 little plays in the game that can change the trajectory of a game, right? That touchdown probably would have gave them a ton of momentum. But nonetheless, he still had a solid game. But the production from the other receivers, non-existent. Dontavian Wicks did have a solid game. I think he had about 45 yards. But it's still not enough, Which, I read off the Lions stats, Tim Patrick, Jamo, Amon-Ra, Gibbs, Laporta all had 5 or more catches. Right? That is production. That is receiving production, right? That is true receiving production. Jaden Reed, where were you last night? 0 catches for 0 yards. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. Especially after you went on a podcast and said, Amon-Ra St. Brown's podcast at that, right? You went on the opposing team's podcast and said yourself, you were gonna have a great game or something like that, or you were gonna kick their ass or something like that, or something along those lines. That you were gonna play very well. And my friend, 0 catches, 0 yards. That's not cutting it. that right there, that is not cutting it. All right, Green Bay, you need to feed Josh Jacobs a lot more. Need to feed him more a lot earlier. You know, he needs to get we need to get the ground game running early, very early. You have to establish your dominance. That's what Detroit does every single week, week in, week out. They establish their run game early. They establish their dominance early. You hear Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery's names early and often, right? Then you open up that pass game, right? That's the success right there. You lean on Josh Jacobs. You brought him in for a reason, right? Not to Aaron Jones, but Josh Jacobs is much better than Aaron Jones. He is. He just is, right? You have to use your premier back early and often. Don't follow my Ravens, strategy, whatever they want to call that. Not running Derrick Henry all the time. Run Josh Jacobs. You brought him in for a reason. Yes, I get he had 18 carries. Shit. Get him 25, right? If he had 25 carries, he'd probably have 100 yards. He probably would. I'm just being honest, man. You have the O-line. You have a lot of talent on that O-line. And you were going against a banged-up Detroit Lions defensive line. Banged up. You got to go in there and just get after it in the run game. Get after it, right? Also, time of possession. That also ties into the run game, right? Running the ball, burning the clock, right? If you're running the ball efficiently, getting 3 to 4 yards a pop or more, that's controlling the game right there. And Detroit did that last night with over 30 minutes of time of possession, right? Detroit's goal every week this season, last season, in the past few seasons, as they've been getting a lot better, is to go in there, punch you in the mouth, keep punching you in the mouth until you just can't take it anymore, right? They had, I believe last night, they had 36 minutes of time of possession. That's a lot of time with the football, man. That's like, come on. That's over half the game. That's over half the game. Like, Green Bay, take some notes from a division rival with a run game, with a game-managing quarterback, right? Like Cam Newton calls him, a game manager quarterback with an elite run game. Take notes. I want to give a special shout out to the Detroit Lions offensive line, man. Like, watching those guys on TV, as a former offensive lineman myself, it's special. It's special to watch. That is a unit. You know what I mean? Led by Penei Sewell. And last night they were missing their starting left tackle, Decker. They were missing their starting left tackle. And they still made it happen, right? And the Packers have no slouches at their edge presence. They have Rashawn Gary and they have Luke Vaness, right? Those guys are no slouches at all. And also they have Kenny Clark in the middle, Poona Ford. They got some guys up there. But the Lions' offensive line, they were moving bodies in the run game. I mean, the one touchdown David Montgomery had where he did the Boy Scout celebration late in the game. Untouched, down on the goal line, where you require your offensive line to be the absolute nastiest they've ever been in their lives, down in the money zone, as I call it, as I tell my guys, it's the money zone, in the red zone, in the goal line. They were nasty. Jared Goff, I don't think he was touched sacked last night. I don't think he was sacked. Yes, he was pressured a little bit, but as an offensive line, you're going to give up pressure eventually. You're not going to be absolutely perfect all year. Offensive line is the second hardest position to play in the game, or third, depending on who you ask. You know what I mean? I say second, but they protected Jared Goff a lot. They did a hell of a job of protecting Jared Goff last night. You know what I mean? The one thing I will do on this podcast is give my love and praise to the offensive line play. Like, I love offensive line play. I'm a former offensive lineman. I've done it my whole life. I've been watching it my whole life. I've studied it my whole life. Offensive line play is glorified in my book. You know what I mean? You can't win games without an O-line. You just can't. You can't. And then, the Detroit offensive line is full of potential all-pros across the board, man, with some veteran presence, like the Kevin Zeitlers of the league. He's been in the league for a long time, kicking, He played for the Ravens. I miss Kevin Zeitler. Wish we never let him go. We're starting to see some of the consequences of letting Kevin Zeitler go over here in Baltimore. But that's another story for another day. You know what I mean? But I had to give my shout out to the Detroit offensive line, man. Keep up the great work. Keep being nasty up there. Penei Sewell, Kevin Zeitler, Decker, all you other guys. Keep leading them up there, man. Keep protecting Goff. Keep clearing and creating lanes in a run game for Sonic and Knuckles back there, a.k.a. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Keep creating lanes back there, man. Make magic happen. Offensive line, shout out to y'all. Another reason the Lions won last night, third down and fourth down efficiency. As a coach, we preach our players that we have to be super efficient on third downs if we want to win, right? Got to be over 50% efficient in third down if you want to win, right? The Lions weren't, but situational things, situational, penalties on third downs make third down situations harder. But they were 7-15 on third down, right? And they were 4 of 5 on fourth downs, man. And that's just a shout out to Dan Campbell. Like, that dude he's a maniac. He's a maniac. And, it's like a hero asshole call. If he doesn't get it, everyone thinks he's an asshole. But if he does get it, he's the hero. He's a magician. He's Houdini. He's Einstein. He knows it all. But I commend him. I love it. Keep being consistent. Don't switch up your game plan. If they know you're gonna go for it on fourth down, who gives a shit, right? I'm sure that's what he's telling his guys in the huddle, right? Who gives a shit that they know that we're gonna go for it on fourth down here? They still have to stop us, right? They still have to stop us. They do. They just do. And I feel like this is a consistent stat every game. Dan Campbell, fourth down magician, fourth down Houdini out here, Shout out to him. And then this next one goes back to the time of possession. The Packers, 45 plays. You know what that is a result of? The lack of the run game. Lack of run game, right? When you're running the ball, you're controlling the ball, you're just milking the clock. You're having 12, 13, 14 play drives. You're just destroying the other team's defense. You know what I mean? What the Detroit Lions do every single drive, they'll hit you with a run on first down, hit you with a run on second down, play action you on third down, go for it on fourth down, get the fourth down, do it all again. Right? They're doing that 3 to 4 times a drive. Right? They're doing that 3 times a drive. You know what that does? Time of possession. Diminish the other team's defense. Demoralizes them, man. It makes them tired. I love Dan Campbell's strategy. I love it. I love it. We're going to go in here and beat the hell out of this team. And they're going to feel it tomorrow. They're going to feel it next week. They're going to feel it next fucking season. Or until all the way up until the next time we see them. Right? I love that. I love that about Dan Campbell. You know what I mean? And he trusts that team of his, you know? He trusts that team of his. Like, to have the amount of trust to just say, hey, fuck it, we're going on fourth down here. I don't give a shit. It's 4th and 3. We're going for it. We're going for it. Call your best play, OC. You better call your best play. You better. But if you don't get it, fuck it, we got to live with it. Defense, get back out there. We got to go get a stop, get the offense the ball back, right? Give the offense the ball back. That's the mentality. You have to play complementary football. And that's another thing the Lions do well and better than most of the league. Pretty much the entire league except for the Kansas City Chiefs who do it the best, in my opinion, right? We'll get into that another day. But the Detroit Lions are playing complementary football right now, people. You know, that is the way you win championships. That's the way you win football games. That is the way you just win in all sports, you know, team sports. You have to be complementary to the other side in some shape or fashion, right? Defense goes out there, gets a pick. Offense, you better go out there and get a fucking touchdown. That is complementary football. Offense goes out there, gets a touchdown, right? Defense, you can't go out there and give up a 70-yard bomb, right? That is not complementary football. And the Lions, they play complementary football. Their offense goes out there, puts on a hell of a drive. Then their defense goes out and gets a 3 and out. Like, what more can you ask for as a fan? You know what I mean? The Detroit Lions fans, you know, I shout out to them, you know, for sticking through it. They've been through the mud, and Dan Campbell has brought this team back. The Detroit Lions are here, and they're here to stay now, man. Like, I'm a Ravens fan. I'm a Ravens fan through and through, and this is a Ravens-focused centric podcast, whatever you want to call it. But as a football fan, seeing the Detroit Lions' success right now and their consistent success, being able to play complementary football and win games in the fashions that they do, it's beautiful. It really is. It really is. And, you know, not to keep talking about the Lions, this will be the last thing I talk about, but going back to when Jared Goff threw those 5 interceptions in that game, the Lions defense stood up for him. They stood up for him. They went out there and got stops for them, right? Other players stood up for Jared Goff, right? As a head coach, shoot, I'm pretty sure if half of you listening, or, you know, half of the universe that knows football, right? If they were head coaches, they would have probably pulled Jared Goff out of that game for the rest of the game. After, shoot, I don't even think they would have let it get to 5 picks. I probably would have. But let's go back to Dan Campbell too. Dan Campbell, shout out to you. Trust in your team. Trust in your players, man. Like, in order to win, you have to trust one another, right? Look at Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs. They all trust each other. Andy Reid trusts the shit out of Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes trusts the shit out of Andy Reid. Pat Mahomes trusts the hell out of Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce trusts the hell out of Pat Mahomes. And that's why they continuously make magic happen, man. And just going back to the Lions, you know, congratulations to them on last night's win. They did it in shocking fashion, you know, thriller fashion. Last night's game was a thriller. You know, the Green Bay Packers, you guys are fine, right? Packers fans, do not panic. It is not over. Y'all know it's not over, right? We've seen what Jordan Love can do, right? Stay true. Stick to it. Keep building big brick by brick Packers. To the Green Bay Packers players. Keep building brick by brick, right? Keep the main thing, and y'all are going to be just fine. Y'all are going to make the playoffs. We know this, right? Detroit was a great team. Y'all are a great team. Y'all just made more mistakes, right? Early on, not getting the groove early on. Got to work on that this week, Green Bay. But moving on, A-Rod and the Jets. Oh man. They are having a season that, a lot of people did predict, right? It's the Jets we're talking about here, y'all. Right? They haven't been good in so long. And in my opinion, that is due to their owner, Woody Johnson. That dude right there, oh man, he has been with the Jets for a long time. And the Jets have sucked for a long time. Long time, right? I think it's Woody. Yes, I do think it's Aaron Rodgers as well. Aaron Rodgers is also a diva, He's Cali kid, man. He's Hollywood. He's 41. He has a resume, so he thinks he can run things. He thinks he's like the LeBron of this organization or something. I don't know what his deal is, but Aaron Rodgers recently said in an interview per CBS, he says, "I like to be healthy. I'd like to end on my feet. And then I'd like to play well. And then I'd like to feel like I'm wanted back here," A-Rod says. And this is in regards to Aaron Rodgers, and the speculations going around the league about him not coming back next year. I personally think they should part ways with Aaron Rodgers simply because he's 40 years old, 41 years old, however old he is. I know he's one of the two. He's old. He's old, man. And I feel like right now, from a coach's perspective, I feel like he is a cancer more than he is the cure. Right? He has come here, and I don't care what people may say. I think he was a part of the reason Robert Saleh got fired. Right? That was the worst move this year by an organization. Firing your head coach, 4 weeks in, 5 weeks in? For what? For what, man? It's too early. It's too early. It's way too early. And that's the reason the Jets are sitting with, 3 wins right now? They're sitting with 3 wins, I believe. Yeah. Like, you have all this talent on the team, right? You do all this to bring in Devontae Adams. You do all this crying, right? To bring in all your former buddies from the Packers, right? But we're not producing anything. The Jets aren't producing anything. Their defense is... I love the defense. The defense is lights out. They're still lights out. Still lights out, right? That ain't going to change. But the offense, man, y'all got to score points. Y'all got to continuously score points. Y'all have to play complementary football. Like I was talking about earlier. They have to play complementary football if they want to win games. Right? I don't get what Aaron Rodgers is, what he wants. You know what I mean? He's gotten everything that he asked for. Like, it sounds like also that he wants the owner to be gone. I would, from a football fan, looking from outside in, I think Woody Johnson needs to retire, right? He hasn't done anything good for the Jets in a long time. I mean, bringing in Aaron Rodgers is probably the best thing he's done, or drafting Sauce Gardner. But right now, that isn't looking like anything. It isn't looking like anything. 3-9, third in the AFC East. It's disappointing, man. Got a premier receiver, 2 premier receivers, premier running back, premier defense, and we can't win. And not we. Y'all can't win. Look in the mirror, A-Rod. I think he needs to look in the mirror. Because he's too old for this, man. He's been in the league for too long. And he knows that he sabotaged his old team, the Green Bay Packers. He sabotaged that team, man. He blew that team up. Everyone knows that. Like, he's trying to play the victim all the time. And I feel like his thing is that he's so selfish, man. Going back to what I was just reading, that his quote, everything he said was I, me. All he cares about is himself, man. And that's not how you gonna win. When you got a quarterback that all he cares about is himself and his success, right? Yeah, he said he would like the team to win. Everybody would say that. But everything else was about him. All about him. All about him. And then he has another quote, right, from another interview, or the same interview. And he's talking about he has nothing to prove. You're right. You don't have a thing to prove, A-Rod. You're 40. You're 41, right? Five-time MVP, 4-time MVP, which whenever it is. But you're multi-time MVP, Super Bowl champion, man. You don't really have much left to prove. You're just putting yourself in these predicaments and forcing us to make narratives about you, right? And making us seem like you have something to prove. You still being in the league is giving everyone a reason, giving all the fans, giving all the reporters a reason to think that you have something left to prove. If you have nothing left to prove, or nothing, you know what I mean? Like, what are you still here for, man? Save your body, dude. Go do your ayahuasca. You know what I'm saying? Go to Thailand and do your ayahuasca retreats and, bull job. It's getting old. Like, Jets fans, I know Jets fans are hot right now, right? They're expecting this record to be flipped. They expected to be 9-3 at this point. I know every Jets fan did. I know they didn't expect to lose to the Denver Broncos. They probably didn't expect to lose to the Minnesota Vikings. Who else did they lose to, man? 9 losses at this point in the year. They didn't expect to lose to the Indianapolis Colts. They didn't expect to lose to the Arizona Cardinals as bad as they did. My goodness, 31-6 to the Cardinals is disappointing. They probably didn't expect to lose. They expected a good game out of Buffalo. It's a divisional game. Probably didn't expect to lose to Pittsburgh. That's disappointing, man. Like, the Jets are not a bad team as far as, on paper. Excuse me. They're not a bad team. They're not. They have premier players on this roster. The Breece Halls, right? The Devontaes, Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, right? Tyler Conklin, really good tight end. The offensive line is solid. A couple first-round picks on that O-line. It's not the greatest, but it's not the worst I've seen, right? It's not the worst that we've seen. And then the defense, right? You got the Hassan Reddick, Will McDonald, the fourth, right? Solomon Thomas was a vet guy. Javon Kinlaw, good depth guy. Quentin Williams, premier D tackle, right? You got Chaz Surratt, up and coming cat, right? No pun intended. That's just funny. But Quincy Williams, premier linebacker, right? You got Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed, right? Chuck Clark, Ashton Davis, Jalen Mills. You have the pieces. But your problem is the man at the helm, Aaron Rodgers, and then the man at the helm, Woody. Woody, you need to call it quits, man. You need to realize that not everything's going to go your way. All right? There's someone else down south having the same problem. Cough, cough, Jerry Jones. That's another convo for another day as well. But get out of your own way and get out of your team's way, man. Same with you, Aaron Rodgers. Admit it, bruh. Admit it. You're getting washed. You're getting washed up, right? It's fine. You're 41 years old. 20th year in the league. You actually have nothing left to prove. And if you have nothing left to prove, then what are you trying to prove by still being in the NFL right now? Riddle me that, A-Rod. Riddle the NFL fans that. Right? Riddle us that. Moving on. Here we have our second segment of the show today. Flaming hot take of the week. The flaming hot take of the week is Ryan Day should be fired from Ohio State because of his 1-4 record versus the University of Michigan, aka the school up north. The school up north. 1-4. 1-4. That is bad, right? That is bad, especially right. He has a good resume. He has a solid resume, man. His overall record, counting the Michigan games as well, is 66-10 overall. Right? But as an Ohio State fan or Ohio State alumni out there, you know, former players, former coaches, cough, cough, Urban Meyer, who's probably rolling over in his ESPN chair right now every year because he chooses Ohio State to win and they continue to disappoint him. He has to find a way to beat them. He's not going to win the Big Ten if he can't beat Michigan. You're just not, right? You got to beat Michigan to make the game. You got to. You got to find a way to beat Michigan. Especially in this new playoff format, man. Especially in this new playoff format. Because it's all about getting that first round bye. You need that bye. Oregon's looking like they're about to get that bye unless they lose to Penn State, right? They got to get that bye. You got to find a way to beat Michigan, Ryan Day. Not beating Michigan, that's unacceptable, right? You beat everybody else. Everybody else. I've seen you beat all these good teams over the years, man. I've seen you beat all of these good teams every year in, year out, right? You beat a really good Indiana team this year. You were coming off a really good win against that Indiana team this year, right? You had the sports world thinking that you were going to get it done this year against Michigan. If I'm not mistaken, you guys were almost a 3-touchdown favorite, or if not, you guys were a 3-touchdown favorite. That's bad, man. That is very bad. But Ohio State fans, Ohio State alum, former coaches, obviously coaches know this, but as a coach, you know your season is not over, right? If you're in Ryan Day's shoes, it's not over. So all the overreaction from all the fans out there saying that they need to fire Ryan Day right now, right? They need to fire him right now because he lost to Michigan. Why? He lost to Michigan this year. Fine, that's a rivalry game. We all know the stakes in a rivalry game are higher, right? Everyone brings their A++ games, you know, double chin strap games, you know, strap your chin strap tighter, right? Strap your pads tighter, right? Everybody knows that, man. Like, you have to take all of this stuff into account. You know, the Michigan game is a rivalry game. You lost that. He's still ranked number 6 in the country, right? His only other loss is to who? Who is now Oregon, who is now the number 1 team in the country. And I think they only lost by one or two, if I'm not wrong. That is impressive. I mean, you know, the Michigan game isn't impressive, but he still had a hell of a season and had a couple ranked wins, right? Not beat Ohio State, sorry. Yeah, they beat themselves in the Michigan game, but they beat Penn State, right? Beat Indiana, right? What was their other win? They had another ranked win in there. They have the resume to make the playoffs, right? And then all you other fans that are, you know, not fans of Ohio State saying that they shouldn't make it, there are way more teams that shouldn't make it. And if you listen to my first episode, you know those 2 teams that should not be in there, right? Shouldn't be in there. Cough, cough, Bama. Cough, cough, Miami. Should not be in the mix. But Ohio State is a legit team, fans. All right? You have to take all of this stuff into account. and stop jumping to conclusions and saying that they should fire him right now, right before they go into the college football playoffs. What sense does that make? Firing your head coach, who has led you to an 10-2 or 11-2 record on the year. What sense does that make? Right? You wait. If you really want to fire him as the AD, you know what I mean, or the president of the school, you wait. You give him a chance to make a run in the college football playoffs because you guys have the squad to do so. You do. Yeah, it didn't look like it versus Michigan, but it's never going to look like it versus a rivalry team. And especially in a game of that nature, it's never going to look like you have the best team in the country. I'm sorry, it just isn't. You know, it's going to be mistakes, you know, on both sides. There's adversity that hits everybody in rivalry games, right? So Ohio State fans, do not overreact. Ryan Day is a great coach. Yes, he lost to Michigan 4 times. That sucks. I'm sorry. You know, I'm an Oklahoma fan. We haven't been doing great against Texas. We just got mollywopped again by Texas this year, right? I don't think we should fire Brent Venables because of that. These are circumstances, right? You got to look deeper than just the scoreboard and in the stat sheets. Look at the situations that these teams are in, right? Ryan Day is, you know, they're saying that Ryan Day is hired to win the big game versus Michigan. It's just not true. It's not true. Every coach is hired. Every coach has one goal when they're hired. Well, I'm sorry, 2 goals. Win football games. I'm sorry, 3 goals. Recruit the best players. Win football games, win championships. That's it. That's it. That's it. And then, obviously, I'm not going to sit here and ignore the Michigan game. You know, I'm not, ignorant, not blind. As an AD for the Ohio State or president as Ohio State, same thing on Michigan side. There's a small print down there at the bottom of the contract that says, beat Michigan or beat Ohio State or beat Texas or beat Oklahoma, right? There's always that little small print at the bottom of the paper that underlying factor in a contract. But that is not the whole weight of the contract. The weight of the contract is having best recruiting class year in, year out, right? Having a top 5 recruiting class year in, year out, right? Winning football games, win 10 games every year. I want to be fighting for conference titles every single year. I want to be fighting for a spot in the college football playoffs every single year, right? Right? And I want to win championships. I want to win conference championships. I want to win national championships. I want to win bowl games. But in Ryan Day's case right now, this is where it gets a little cloudy, right? In the firing Ryan Day talk, right? His record in bowl play in college football playoffs, right? His record in the college football playoff during his tenure with the Ohio State Buckeyes is 1-3. 1-3 in the college football playoff, and he is 2-4 in bowl play. That's not good. That isn't good. Sub 500. It's not good. It really isn't. But, situational. Miss kicks, things like that. Some things are out of Ryan Day's control, out of the rest of the team's control. Still not a bad resume, right? He's also, right, just to remind you, 66-10 overall as a coach at Ohio State. It's a lot of wins, not too many losses, right? 1-4 versus Michigan, just to bring that back up. He's won Big Ten Coach of the Year. But it's also been 5 years since he's done that. 2-time Big Ten champs. Also been 4 years since he's done that, right? Obviously, he's lost the last 4 versus Michigan, or 3 versus Michigan, 3 or 4 versus Michigan, right? It's not good. It's not a good look. It's not a good look, but that's still not a great reason to jump to a conclusion, right, as a fan and say we need to fire him now because he lost to Michigan. That's not good enough. That's not a good enough reason. Now, I do agree with you guys if you say if he doesn't go in on a deep run this year, I mean, he has to make it to second to last round to the championship game, right? If he doesn't go on a deep run this year, then I think you part ways with him, right? I think you part ways with him. And in my opinion, I think you promote Chip Kelly. I think you promote Chip Kelly, man. You know, he's a good coach. I think he's a good coach. But I think, listening to a lot of podcasts, a lot of former Oregon players, a lot of former Eagles players, like Shady McCoy, he was on his podcast one time talking about how Chip Kelly, his play calling gets a little stale, right? It gets to running a lot of systematic plays, same plays, same looks, different looks, but same play. And it gets stale, gets caught on to, and that's why they, couldn't really come up big with Chip Kelly. And it kind of looked like that versus the Michigan game, man. A lot of the RPOs looked the same. A lot of the run game looked the same, which I looked stale, which why it didn't look good on tape. All right. But I still think you give Chip Kelly a shot, at an interview. Another coach you could call is Lane Kiffin. But I don't think Lane Kiffin's going to leave Mississippi for Ohio. He might, he might. Columbus seems like a decent town, but I don't think he would leave Ole Miss for Ohio State. I don't think there's anybody in the NFL that you could call back down, really. But I do think you start to have that thought that, we start to have that talk if Ryan Day doesn't make a deep run this year in the playoffs. I'm talking literally semifinals to championship. No, but you can't lose anything before that. I don't even, I'm reluctant on giving him enough space with that semifinal game. I think it's championship or bust, man. It's year 6. You got to make something shake this year, Ryan Day. This is one of the best teams we've seen from top to bottom. You got a lot of freshman production. You got a lot of older production. Your defense looks insane right now, man. You have Jack Sawyer playing out of his mind. Caleb Downs looks amazing, right? Latham Ransom has been playing some of his better football recently, right? And then you got that corner, Igbo. I'm just going to call him Igbo for right now, right? You got the talent, dog. Now go make the run. You lost to Michigan. Wash that game away, right? Ohio State players, Ohio State coaching staff, Ohio State fans, Ohio State front office, presidents and ADs and stuff like that. Wash that Michigan game away, man. It's a rivalry game. Yes, you lost again. It sucks like hell that you lost again, especially to a Michigan team that you should have blown out of the water. Right? It sucks. It does. It's reality. You lost. Move the hell on. If you want to win the championship game this year, we have to move on from the Michigan game. Ohio State fan base, Ohio State team. You have to move on from that Michigan game and get ready for whatever the hell is about to happen next in these college football playoffs. You don't know who you got next. So right now, you rest, recover. You correct that. You get the corrections from that Michigan game, and you get ready for who the hell you got to play next, right? Take the time off, right? Do all the little things right leading up to this next game you got in the college football playoffs, because y'all are going to be in. I don't know where y'all going to be at, but you're going to be in. I know that for a fact because your resume is way better than anybody beneath you. It is. And your team is, right? That's that, man. That's that, Ohio State. Get ready for the college football playoffs, man. All right. Going into our third segment of the show. The Boomer Scoop, man. The Boomer Scoop. Boomer Sooner, everybody. Boomer Sooner. Right, let's get right into their signing day. Right now, Oklahoma is sitting at number 17 in 2025 class recruiting. The class of 25 recruiting. They're sitting at number 17 in the nation. They brought in a lot of guys. I really just want to point out a few of the guys that really I think could help us in year one, depending on who comes back and, who transfers and who, graduates and who hits the league. But I think our biggest problem this year is our depth at O-line and our depth at receiver, man. We didn't really have the most quality depth at receiver. We were forced to play a lot of younger guys in result of us losing a lot of our stars. Well, all of our stars, right? But I think our biggest focus this offseason is really to bring in more depth in those two rooms right there. Offensive line and wide receiver. We have to bring in depth there. Obviously now, with Jackson Arnold leaving, we must focus on bringing in another quarterback. Or we could lean on Michael Hawkins, who is also not a bad option, man. Michael Hawkins he's a good quarterback. I like Michael Hawkins. He's a good dual threat guy. But I still don't think he's it for us. You know what I mean? I don't think he's going to win us a lot of games in the SEC. I don't think he's going to put us in contention for that SEC title. But, to each their own. To each their own, man. But I want to get right into it. Coach Bedenbaugh, man. Coach Bill Bedenbaugh. He's back. Coach B is back. When I say it again, Coach Bedenbaugh is back, man. His recruiting this offseason has been elite. Let's start it off with 5-star offensive tackle out of Louisville, Texas, Michael Fasusi. Right? Left tackle, big kid. He's about 6'5", 315. Huge kid, right? When you turn on the tape, his first play is him pancaking, I think, 2 people in one play, right? Explosive cat. Huge kid. 5-star. He's the third in his position. Nationally ranked by 247 Sports. OG, shout out 247 Sports, right? Ranked 17th nationally. Ranked 17th nationally. That's impressive, man. That's impressive. We haven't had this good of offensive line recruiting in a while. I mean, last year we brought in a couple guys, Last year we brought in Daniel Akinumi. I believe he was the best offensive lineman to come out of, come from overseas. He came out of that NFL academy. I'm excited to see that cat play soon. But back to Michael Fasusi. He held a lot of good offers, man. We beat out a lot of good schools, He held over 40 offers. He had, from the UGAs to the Bamas, the Texas, the A&Ms, and, he had every offer you could think of. And we pulled through. We stole a recruit from Texas. That's a great sign. When you can steal a recruit from your rival school, that is a great sign for recruiting right there, right? That's great momentum for recruiting, I should say. And he's just a nasty player. Physical at the point of attack, man. He's a polished puller. Especially that's impressive at tackle, As a younger guy coming in playing tackle, that's really impressive because in college GT counter is killing the game right now. If you go back to the Oklahoma game versus Alabama, ran a whole lot of GT counter. That's how we won the game. GT counter saved our lives that game, Guard tackle counter for those that aren't, familiar with, terminology of football, right? It's guard tackle counter, right? It's polished, you got polished footwork in Protect Pass Pro for a senior in high school. I think the only thing he really needs to work on, based off of his film that I've watched, is that his punching is, in pass pro, that'll get you in a lot of trouble versus these SEC defensive lines, man. Going against the Tennessees of the world, the Ole Misses of the world, the Georgias of the world. You got to be really polished in your pass pro because they hunting. They produce edge rushers in this conference. The SEC produces some of the best edge rushers in this conference, man. And I just think that's one little minor thing that I think he could work on in his game. But nonetheless, this kid's a 5-star, true 5-star talent. He passes the eye test. I said it again, say it again. 6'5", 315. Michael Fasusi, right? And another thing I think he could work on really is, not really depending on his strength a whole lot. He's like I said, 6'5", 315. So he's probably bigger than almost anybody he's played against in high school. So you can't really depend on that in college, right? Your size can only get you so far in college. Look at Orlando Brown, right? He was a hell of an old lineman for us in Oklahoma, but he did depend on his size a lot, and it got him beat a lot, right? Hindering him in the draft, I think that's what really hindered him in the draft. I don't care what he ran in the 40 and stuff like that or did at the combine. I think his problem is that he depended on his size a whole lot, and that's not a good thing at offensive line, man. You gotta have all the tools. You gotta be smart. You gotta be physical. You gotta be strong. You got to be technically sound, right? You got to have all those tools. And I think he does. But he just still needs to sharpen those tools, right? Some of those tools are a little dull. He needs to sharpen them a little bit, right? Moving on. Ryan Faji, 4-star offensive lineman, offensive tackle, can play some interior. 4-star offensive lineman out of Cypress, Texas, right? I believe he could be a 5-star, but he's right outside that top 100, top 100 rank for ESPN and 247. And this is another cat right here. Another good pickup by Coach Badenbaugh out of Oklahoma. Another great pickup for us at offensive line, right? Another depth piece that could potentially play first year, but it'll probably be a depth piece that'll grow to be a probably soon all conference cat, man. He looks good on tape as well. Very physical player, right? We beat out a lot of schools. He held over 40 offers as well, right? We beat out some schools like Baylor, Arkansas, Cal, Kansas, and others, man. We're beating out up-and-coming programs. We're beating out programs that are legit now, right? We're beating out blue-collar programs. And I just want to give a round of applause to, Coach Venables and Coach Badenbaugh and the whole staff, really. I mean, they're recruiting their ass off this year. This is a better recruiting class already this year than we had last year, right? We're bringing in more O-linemen. We've already brought in a 5-star O-lineman, potentially 2 5-stars, right? That's impressive. That's an impressive improvement over a year span right there. Torrey Blaylock, right? Torrey Blaylock, running back, Torrey Blaylock, out of Humble, Texas, 4-star. This kid here, he has legit speed, legit track speed too. This kid was a part of a national 4x1 record in Texas 6A state championships last year. He runs a sub 11 in the 100-meter. I believe his PB right now, his personal best right now is a 10.6. That's legit speed right there, man. For track speed, 10.6 in high school, and he ran that as a sophomore too, or a junior. I'm sorry, he ran that as a junior. So I'm intrigued to see what he'll be running this year as a senior. As a more developed body, more grown up body, matured body. I'll be curious to see what he runs this season. But he's number 1 in the state of Oklahoma. I'm sorry, not number 1 in the state of Oklahoma, but he's top 10 in the state of Texas. Top 10 in the state of Texas. And he held 42 offers. And we beat out schools like Bama, Oregon, Penn State, UGA, right? Clemson's. We beat out schools. We're beating out schools, y'all. Like competitive schools. Schools with a lot of NIL money. Something that Oklahoma, I feel like we got it, but, we ain't got it. So they say. We ain't got it. Patting our pockets right now. But we're beating out some really good schools for some really good talent right now. Another 4-star running back, right? We lost Emeka Megwa yesterday to the transfer portal, and we lost Khalib Hicks to the transfer portal yesterday. So with that 4-star running back, Torrey Blaylock, that pickup right there, right on time. Right on time, DeMarco Murray. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to you, man. Moving on. 4-star, Elijah Thomas. 4-star wide receiver, Elijah Thomas, out of Chakota, Oklahoma. Home state kid, man. Number one in the state. Number one wide receiver in the state, based according to 247 Sports. Number 6 in this position nationally, according to 247 Sports as well. Another great pickup after, we lose another young product at wide receiver to the transfer portal. 2, actually. Well, one's not young, one's a little older, but one's young. We lost Nick Anderson yesterday, and we lost Jaquez Petaway, another ESPN top 100 wide receiver from a couple years ago. Very talented guys right there that we lost right there. But we bring in a great pickup out of the home state, out of Chakatoa, Oklahoma. He's the best in the state at his position. What more can you ask for? He's a great deep threat guy, big play guy, right? All you got to do is get him the ball. Get him the ball and let the kid work, man. Just get him the ball. Get Elijah the ball. I could potentially see him playing. I think he'll probably redshirt him, depending. I'm really curious to see what happens in this transfer portal, man. A lot of bodies are hopping in the transfer portal. A lot of notable bodies are hopping in the transfer portal. So depending on what happens in the transfer portal for us this year, and then what happens in the second signing day this year for us, it'll really depend on his playing time, because he's a really explosive receiver with a lot of talent, a lot of deep threat talent, right? And I can see him getting on the field early, depending on what our receivers do as well. So this offseason is going to be really crucial, as far as who leaves, also the roster spots and things like that. So, and finally, my last recruit that I wanted to point out that I thought was a huge pickup for Oklahoma this year was a kid out of my home state, out of Maryland. His name's Trent Wilson, 4-star D lineman out of Wise High School. Wise is a really prestigious football school, sports school in general, really. They win a lot of state championships every year. They produce a lot of Division I talent. A lot of professional athletes came out of Wise. Wise is just a well-renowned school. And Trent Wilson, I've been keeping up with his game over the past few years, simply because Wise is, like I said, everyone knows who Wise is, right? You see him on TV late in the year in the playoffs or state championships every single year. So you start to learn these kids' names. And Trent Wilson had been on the Oklahoma train pretty early on. So that's another reason that prompted me to, watch him, And he had been committed to us for almost a year and a half now. And it's just a huge pickup because he's very versatile in his D-line play. He could probably go play edge if he wanted to, but he's a little heavier, right? He can play 3-tech. He can play the shade. He can play nose. Well, if he wants to play nose at this level, he's going to have to probably put on another 15, 20, right? If he wants to play a lot of reps at nose, but he can play it, on third down, pass rush downs, third and longs. I think he'd be a great plug-and-play guy there. But nonetheless, Trent Wilson is a hell of a pickup this season. In this recruiting cycle. And as a first recruiting cycle as a whole, Oklahoma, they smashed the board. 17th in the nation in recruiting. I'll take it. Right at the moment, I'll take it. Right, there's still a lot of guys still committing at this point. Right, we need to keep up. I think our biggest thing is that we need to just keep up in the SEC. Right, forget everybody else in every other conference. We need to keep up in our conference. Right. We're ranked number 10 in our conference in this recruiting class. I think we need to get that number higher. And we'll do that by, somehow getting some NIL money. Some NIL money would help, These kids want to get paid, right? They want to get paid. They want their money. Respectfully so. Right. I'll get into that in NIL talk a whole nother, on another day, right? I don't like it. Just to put that out there, I don't like it. But in order to win, you need it. You just do. I mean, it shows late in the year. The championship teams from the Jags. Jags are just the guys. Just guys, just a guy. You're just a guy. And we need to dip in our biggie bag this off season. We need to pay up. We need to find some fans out, some super fans, some super Oklahoma fans out there that got bread. We need to find them. We need to do what Michigan just did. They just found a alumni or something and got that alumni to pay $12 million to a 17-year-old. It's a shit ton of money. $12 million. Good googity muggity. Good googity muggity, man. Man. And this brings me to our final segment of the day. Of the show. Sorry, final segment of the show. The college championship weekend pick'ems. We got some good games this weekend. Got some good games kicking off tonight. We got Tulane versus number 24 Army, man. That's going to be a really good game. It's going to be a gritty game. You got to go against Army. Anytime you're going against Army, you just know you better put on 2 chin straps. Better double knee padded up, double thigh pad, double girdle it up. Make sure your Make sure your shoulder pads strapped extra tight. Extra tight. Because it's going to be gritty. It is. Triple option is gritty. It's the grittiest thing that you ever go through, right? Playing against it sucks. So, I hope Tulane has a plan in place to slow it down. Because stopping the triple option, it's not an option, right? Especially when you're going against a team that's running it at the rate that Army's running it this year. So, Army versus Tulane. Number 24 Army versus Tulane. I'm rocking with Army tonight. If they go out there and control the ball all game long. I mean, I'm talking control the ball all game long. Put on those 14 play triple option drives, man. Have, running all types of, zone reads and triple option plays and, tosses and jet sweeps, power counter, all of that. And then pop off a random, 20-yard pass and then get right back to it. I think Army has this game in the bag, and I think it'll be over early. If they can get to their game plan and stick to it. But Tulane's going to have to come out there with 2 chin straps on, man. I'm telling you. They're going to have to double up on everything. It's going to be gritty. Moving on to number 20 UNLV versus number 10 Boise State. This is the game of the day. Obviously, in my opinion, these are only 2 games of the day, but this is the better game of the 2, in my opinion. Like they say, it's hard to beat a team twice. But I'm still rocking with Boise State tonight, right? You got a Heisman player on your team. I think he's going to do what it takes to make sure they don't lose this game and make sure that they end up in the college football playoffs, as they deserve, as they've earned all year long, right? And looking back at their last matchup, that was a great game. It was 29-24. It came down to the end, right? Boise State's pass game was going. They kind of slowed down Ashton Genty. Yeah, he had over 100 yards on the ground, but it wasn't one of those 190, 200 type of games. But he still had a really good game. But Boise State, this time around, you guys are going to have to find a way to stop Hodge. Right? Hodge had a day on you guys last time. Hodge put up 179 yards through the air on 12 for 21 passing. and 2 touchdowns and an interception. And he also had 19 carries for 105 on the ground. And a touchdown. He's carving y'all up, Boise. I hope y'all have a plan in place for that tonight. But nonetheless, I think Boise State, they're rolling right now, man. They're rolling. UNLV's rolling too, but I think they have the better team. I think they have more weapons. Maddox Madsen's going to have to play well tonight. Whenever his number's called to throw that thing, he's going to have to play really well, right? He's going to have to play really, really well. He played well in the last matchup. He had 209 through the air and a touchdown, right? That's good enough, but he's going to have to bring it again. He's going to have to bring it again because in order to get over that saying, and plus, Boise, Aston Genty specifically, you got to block out that noise, man. Y'all got to block out that noise. I know the Heisman talks and the college football playoff talks. It's overwhelming right now. It sounds overwhelming. Just to think about it, I could only imagine. But y'all got to block it out. Focus on tonight. Tonight only. Y'all can get to the rest of that stuff after the game. After y'all put BTA to UNLV. Those are my picks for tonight's games. Boise State over UNLV and Army over Tulane. Those are my picks for tonight's games, right? Moving on to tomorrow's slate. Saturday's slate is loaded. Loaded, right? First off, we have Iowa State, number 16 Iowa State versus number 15 Arizona State. Both teams are hot right now. ASU is really, really hot right now, actually, to just specifically speaking. I know Iowa State came off a loss a couple weeks ago, but they started to pick things back up later on in the season, right? They had that loss against Texas Tech and Kansas, but they still turned it around in the last 3 games of the season, which is what you want to see, right? Which is what you want to see out of a potential college, football playoff team. This is a great matchup right here. 16 versus 15. Even. It's even. All right. Iowa State's coming off a big win against Cincy, 34-17. Coming off a big win against Utah. Close game, 31-28. And coming off a really good game against K-State, 29-21. They're rolling. They're on the streak right now. And Arizona State as well, I personally, preseason, did not predict Arizona State to be up here, right? Did not predict Arizona State to be up here. Everyone thought Colorado up to 3 weeks ago, everyone thought Colorado was going to be in the Big 12 championship, right? And in preseason, shoot, you would have told me that Arizona State and Iowa State were going to be in the Big 12 championship this year. Yeah, I would have told you were a lie. I would have told you were a liar, man, because shoot, those are just 2 teams you don't expect. You just don't expect it. And I expected a lot more out of Colorado this year, man. They should be in there, but they shouldn't have lost to Kansas. But back to the ASU and Iowa State. I think my pick for this game right here, it's a tough one, man. This is a tough one because ASU's coming off some really good wins. They're coming off a good win against a ranked BYU, coming off of a blowout win versus Arizona, coming off of a good win versus K-State as well. Like, they're rolling. They rolling. They won the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I think Iowa State pulls it off. Iowa State's been the better team longer. I think Iowa State has what it takes to make it to the playoffs. At one point, Iowa State was the front runner for this conference. So I think they'll get back to it tomorrow versus Arizona State. But they're going to have to find a way to slow down Arizona State's offense, man. They're scoring at a high rate right now. Scoring at a really high rate right now. Ooh, that's going to be good. But moving on to number 5, UGA versus number 2, Texas, which is one of the games of the weekend, right? This is a rematch right here. Rematch. Big rematch, man. This is a heavyweight fight, right? Georgia's coming off of a thriller game versus G-Tech. Thriller game. 8 overtimes. Thriller. Big thriller, right? But if they want to win versus Texas tomorrow again, if they want to come out and win versus Texas tomorrow again, they can't come out as slow as they did versus Georgia Tech. That was a scary sighting, right? They came out way too slow. Georgia Tech went into halftime in that game up 17-0. If Carson Beck in the Georgia offense comes out slow again, Texas will get after them. Texas will get after them. Because if Georgia comes out as fast as they did versus Texas the first time, Texas, you are in trouble. Texas is in trouble if that's the case. But moving on to Texas, Texas cannot come out as slow as they did versus Georgia. They can't, right? They just can't. They can't. 15 points is unacceptable as well. Quinn Ewers, you can't turn the ball over. You got to get that run game going. 15 carries for 52 yards is not good. That's not good enough. That's not going to win you championship games, Texas. It's just not. It ain't. You know what I mean? 2 for 15 on third downs is not going to win you freaking championships, Texas. 1 for 5 on fourth down, not going to win you championships, Texas. 4 turnovers in the game, not going to win you championships, Texas or Georgia. Y'all had 3 turnovers in that game, 3 picks in that game. Carson Beck, that's not going to win you this game. For both teams, you have to limit the turnovers. You have to limit the turnovers if you want to win this game tomorrow. It's a heavyweight fight, so whoever establishes that run game first is going to win that game, in my opinion. Because running the ball this late in the year, man, determines a lot of games. Excuse me, a lot of games. Whole lot of games. In Texas, Georgia, y'all going to have to bring that run game tomorrow, man. But my pick for tomorrow's game, I think Texas is going to come out. They're going to swing first. They're going to connect. They're going to swing again. They're going to connect, right? I think they'll go up 14-0 early. At halftime, I think they'll be up 17-7, right? 17-7 at halftime. Georgia comes out late in late third quarter, makes it a closer game. I think Texas comes out still swinging out of halftime. Going into the fourth quarter, I predict the score to be 21-17. It's going to be a 4-point game going into the fourth quarter, right? And I think Texas pulls it off, man. I think at this point in the year, they're clicking right now. I mean, they haven't really played many premier teams, blue-collar teams, but they're clicking. They're clicking right now. Georgia, man, they scared me. They scared me after that Georgia Tech game. I know Georgia Tech is a good team, a solid team, but, man, they can't come out that slow again. That was a scary sight. That was a scary, scary, scary sight. But I'm picking number 2 Texas over number 5 UGA. Moving on to number 3 Penn State versus number 1 Oregon. Another heavyweight fight. I would say this is like a light heavyweight fight, right? You got a lot of cats on these teams, man. A lot of cats on each of these teams, man. A lot of explosive players on these teams. Both of these games will be won in the trenches. In the trenches. We know each team has cats on each side of the ball. All the skill rooms, all the skill position rooms are loaded with talent on each side, right? But nonetheless, I think Penn State. I think Oregon takes their first loss of the season this year versus Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. Why? Because I think they haven't really. I mean, they've faced adversity this year, but man, I don't know. Penn State looks good right now, man. Penn State they look good. You know what? I'm taking Oregon. That's my pick. Number 1, Oregon over Penn State. That's my pick. Oregon over Penn State. Oregon to win the Big Ten championship tomorrow. Dylan Gabriel, former Boomer guy. Hey, man, much love to you, boy. go get it done tomorrow. Number 1 Oregon over number 3 Penn State. Last but not least, number 17 Clemson versus number 8 SMU. Ooh, this is a really good game here, right? Another team, right, from another conference, right, that moved to a new conference this year, that is in the conference championship game. College football is great this year, man. I love it. College football is great this year. No one predicted. I don't think anyone would have thought SMU was going to be in the college football playoff picture this year, or in the ACC championship. Right? Everyone had good old Miami. Right? SMU brought it this year. SMU brought it this year, man. They were putting BTA to teams. Man. I'm rocking with SMU tonight. Not tonight. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Tomorrow night, I'm rocking with number 8 SMU over number 17 Clemson. I don't think Cade Klubnik has what it takes to get it done. I just don't. But this SMU kid here, Kevin Jennings, I like this kid, man. I really do. He and a few others on this team have been getting it done this year. He's got 2,700 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. But also has been getting it done on the ground, man. He's got 83 carries for 344 yards and 4 tutties. That kid's special. From Oak Cliff, Texas. Yeah, they produce some talent down there in Oak Cliff. They do. Do your homework on Oak Cliff. Who else stands out on SMU, man? Whole lot of guys do. You know, their running back, Smith, Brashard Smith, 193 carries for 1,100 yards on the year, 14 touchdowns. Really good player. I think if they get rolling early, Clemson's going to be in for a long day. Cade Klubnik, though, if they get the run game going early, if Clemson gets their run game going early with Phil Maffa, then SMU might be in for a long day. But I still think SMU is rolling right now. I think they're rolling. They're rolling right now. So I'm rocking with SMU over Clemson. All right? SMU over Clemson tomorrow night. Cade Klubnik, let's see if you show up, you know. Congratulations on a solid year to both of these teams, to all these teams that are in the big, in their big conference championship games this weekend. Congratulations to all you teams that are completing this weekend. But those are my college championship weekend pick'ems. I hope you all enjoyed this episode, second episode of the 410 Pod. It has been great talking to all of you. It has been great talking some good football, man. It's always good to talk about football. But it's been a pleasure. It's been another great episode, second episode. I'm ready for our third one already, man. I've been having a lot of fun doing this. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Have a great weekend. Enjoy college football this weekend. And I'll be back. And you guys should hear from me again on Sunday. Right? This episode should be going up either late tonight, early tomorrow morning. Right? So you guys will probably have watched all of the college football games tonight. But like I said, enjoy your weekend, everybody. It has been another great one. It's your boy K Love. And I'm out.